Hey folks, welcome to another episode of DIY Outdoor Life. Today we are reporting from beautiful sunny Arkansas. We went out of our way to come here for 2 nights on this road trip because Petit State Park is one of our favorite places in the country. Now it was in the 70s here last week, so things change quickly. Although we're still excited to get out and show you some of the beautiful aspects of this park and why we make it part of our road trip every year. Like the weather, things change pretty quickly. So today's video is probably going to be a lot about adapting on trips like this. You know, you can't change the weather. You can only change your clothes and your attitude. In what would prove to be an ironic twist of fate, we actually planned this leg of the trip to provide ourselves a reprieve from the mountainous weather of New Mexico. We planned to leave early and catch a couple hours of driving under the ominous glow of this full moon. 4 o'clock sharp. The idea was to catch a couple 100 miles on the road in the direction we were headed before the sun even came up. We had a few AM snow squalls to drive through. The conditions weren't too bad, but the southern sun bakes the snow off the road so quickly. It's here 1 minute, it's gone the next. For the most part, this long day of travel had clear roads, low traffic. If anything was going to slow us down, it was going to be me. I had scheduled a pit stop to swap a bulb out on the tow vehicle, a much needed service for the long road trip. But what we're doing right here is what really slows me down. I like to stop and take things in. I like to take some side roads and check out future camping sites, or even take the tow vehicle in places it probably shouldn't go. But this is how we make memories, and this is what road trips are about for me. We'll be able to take in some sights that we normally wouldn't see in the Northeast, and every once in a while you catch something that you have never seen before. I have no idea what this is, how much it costs, or how I could get one, but my mind just swirls with the possibilities of the amount of fun that somebody could have with a vehicle like this. The truth is, I rarely pass a camper on the road these days without stopping to check it out. I'm just fascinated with what people do and the huge amount of choice that we have these days. There's so many different options for people to get out and explore this amazing planet that we live on. Now, of course, personally, I have a preference for the smaller rigs. I really like the simplicity of a tiny camper. I'm also really into these amazing van conversions that people are doing these days. It just seems simple. But there's a choice out there for everyone, big to small. And as far as these road trips like the ones we're on now, it's not about going from point A to point B. The travel itself is something that I look forward to. I like seeing new things, and obviously campers are something that I'm interested in. But it's also great to have a co-pilot with a watch, with a sense of purpose that's going to keep the wheels turning and the nose pointed towards the destination of the day. With a little gentle prodding, eventually we made it to Arkansas. What became quickly apparent, though, was this reprieve we were looking for was just not in the cards. The weather that we were leaving behind us was actually a lot more suited for our outdoor adventures than where we were about to head next. So as the sun went down, the temperatures dropped with it, and this snowstorm came out of the middle of nowhere. At times it was coming down pretty good. We're from the Northeast, we're used to driving in conditions like this, and I'm just happy that my co-pilot didn't rub it in that we were driving at night through this and I had stopped to look at every camper along the way. Although it was a little dicey for about an hour, now it's just another good road trip story. Yesterday was a long day on the road. We covered almost 1,000 miles. When you're traveling with a dog, that's about all we can handle for 1 day's worth of travel. You couple that with the fact that we had blizzard-like conditions driving at night for a couple hours, it was certainly an ordeal getting to this location. Now, we're spending over a month on the road. Lucy and I are able to work remotely, and it gives us this amazing opportunity to do some tiny camper travel. We like to improvise. We like to make decisions based on weather and go to different locations just spur of the moment. But certain parts of your trip are gonna have to be booked out ahead of time. Petit State Park in Arkansas, with these primo waterfront locations, some of these sites are booked out 6 months in advance. It's like a national park. There's no way we'd be able to work around these short-term weather anomalies when planning this part of our trip. The average daytime temperature here is like in the 60s. It's not uncommon to have nice sunny days in the 70s. It very well could have been shorts and t-shirt weather for us. Instead, we have daytime temperatures in the 20s, and it dropped 5 inches of snow on us last night. When I woke up this morning to both find out what I was gonna do for the day and plan a couple things for the channel, a couple tips came to mind to make the most of situations like this based on my experience doing this type of travel for a long time. Maybe we'll be able to help out some new travelers or some other experienced people alike. So although we got up pretty early, the storm had not let up yet, and after a quick trip outside, Ripple's vote was to stay inside and sleep in, and I happily agreed. When the sun did come up, we saw that our neighbors were making the most of a snowy morning, and it inspired us to get out and do the same. The air temperature was still cold. It hovered in the high 20s for most of the day, but the ground was still warm from the earlier days of higher temperatures, so the snow was melting from the ground up. Now, although we tried, most of the trails that traveled down to the bottom of the canyons or waterfalls, there was some caves on the property, they were either closed or still in rough enough shape that we really didn't have the gear to check them out. It did give us the opportunity to slow down and take in some of the sights that we normally would have just walked right by. One nice bonus was the really easily accessible viewpoints of Cedar Creek Falls. I definitely spent quite a bit of time here taking this in. In true Labrador fashion, if you hear the whining in the background, that's what Ripple does anytime she sees water we don't allow her to swim in. So one of my favorite things that I discovered today is that I showed up here without a winter coat. I had no reason to bring one, but this little down inside liner with this Gore-Tex raincoat over it is like the best winter coat that I've ever worn. I would seriously consider bringing this combo to go skiing from now on. This is like top-notch stuff. So walking around this state park today, I could see that the campers that are here are hunkered down. They got fifth wheels, motorhomes, Class A's. The generators are pumping. The furnaces are blaring. I could see the flicker of Netflix as I walk by the building. There's nothing wrong with that. But for those of us that travel with tiny campers, it can get a little crowded. They kick you outdoors, and that's part of why we love them. So I'm trying to stay warm today by walking around and checking out these CCC monuments. This is the chimney from the original Civilian Conservation Corps that built Petit. If you guys don't know about this program, there's documentaries, information online, there's books about the topic. But in the 30s, as a response to the Depression, the Civilian Conservation Corps was created. Teams of young men that were starving during the Depression. This camp was all World War I veterans. They were put to work and fed to build our state and national park systems. As we walk around and see bridges and guardrails, hiking trails, the visitor center, these were all built by these young men during that time frame. I find it fascinating. It's also something that if I was out hitting the trails and hiking all day, I never would have checked out. So as far as some other tips that can really help us out in these all-weather conditions, I can't emphasize going back to shore power enough. This might surprise a lot of you. If you watch the channel, you know I have high capacity AGMs that charge in any weather. I have lithium batteries that are good for 3 seasons a year. Solar panels, charge controllers, portable power stations. We are set up to go off grid and away from the pedestal. But when you're in situations like this, it is really worth the $10 to be able to plug your camper into shore power. When we're here, I will plug in this electric heater and I run it 24 hours a day. Our furnace works great. This is a lot more quiet. It keeps the camper dry. You can store some water inside. And instead of going through a bunch of propane, I can use the electricity from the campsite to be able to stay warm. You can still use the furnace to kick it on for extra boosts of heat. Well, like I said, it's dry, it's quiet, it really makes the experience a lot better. You're also going to spend more time inside, charging, using your phone, watching a movie. Chances are you're going to use more power when it's cold out. It gives you peace of mind that I'm not sweeping snow off of solar panels and worrying about the expensive gear like power stations when it's outside. So it's one more tip to really give yourself just one less thing to worry about in these situations. So I know we didn't get to go hiking today and show you some of the nicer features of Petit, but I hope you guys appreciated some of these tips and tricks. I learned them stealing them off other people. Please include things in the comments that you guys do when you get some unexpected weather. Right now, I found this sweet hot cocoa, so I know what I'm going to be doing for the next 10 minutes. I hope to see you guys on the road. Have a good one. Like and subscribe. Okay. So Petit is one of our favorite places in the country, but my funny story about it is for about 6 months before visiting there for the first time, we were referring to it as Petit Jean. It wasn't until we got to the park and had said Petit Jean to one of the park staff that they looked at me like I had offended their sensibilities. The name of the park was Petit, despite being named after a person from France whose name was Petit Jean. It's now Petit. So I was a little embarrassed, but just to get a rise out of the park staff, after being corrected for it, I said, well, it's really nice to be in Arkansas.